Welcome to Key Talking Points.
The podcast that makes learning effortless.
No fluff, no jargon, just clear, engaging explanations.
We break down complex topics so you don't have to.
Let's get straight to the point.
Visit keytalkingpoints.com for more. Picture this. The year is 1985. Kenneth Lay takes two natural gas companies, Houston Natural Gas and Internorth, and merges them to create a brand new powerhouse called Enron. By the early 90s, they weren't just providing natural gas. Oh no, they were transforming it. They saw an opportunity in deregulation, using innovative trading to sell electricity and natural gas at market prices. They weren't just supplying energy anymore. They were trading it, turning it into a high-stakes game of commodities. And for a while at least, they were winning. Big time.
Yeah, they made this huge shift from simple suppliers to traders, and that was a bold move. I mean, in the 90s, they became the largest seller of natural gas in North America. Enron Online, their trading website, that came in 1999 and revolutionized how they did business. It was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
Exactly. Enron Online was a game changer, no doubt about it. But, see, they weren't just innovating in how they sold energy. They were also redefining how they reported their success. And that's where things get tricky. Have you heard of mark-to-market accounting?
Oh, absolutely. But let's break it down because this is key to understanding what really went on. Instead of reporting profits they'd actually made, this method allowed them to estimate the total value of a deal over its entire lifespan and then book those projected profits immediately. Sounds good on paper, right?
It does, until reality sets in. See, when those projected profits didn't pan out, the debt started piling up. But Enron wasn't showing that part. No, they kept building this image of relentless growth, keeping Wall Street totally dazzled.
And it worked. Investors were hooked. Here's the thing about that, though. When you're not delivering the actual money and only those promises of future profits, it's like building a tower on sand. Seems solid until you realise the foundation's just not there.
Speaking of investors being dazzled, let me share this story. A friend of mine, back in the late 90s, was convinced to pour his savings into Enron stock. Why? Because everyone was talking about it. It wasn't just a company. It was portrayed as untouchable, the future of energy. He said, "It's like betting on the sun rising. It's inevitable." And at the time, it felt that way. Enron was the poster child of success, innovation, and growth.
Yeah, and that's the perfect example right there. Enron had created this image that felt infallible. But under the surface, it's a completely different story.
Under the surface, Enron wasn't just cooking the books, it mastered the art of optical illusions in corporate finance. You see, they used something called special purpose entities. Essentially, these were shell companies designed to make their debts disappear off their balance sheet.
Right, and these weren't small sums being hidden. We're talking about over $63 billion in liabilities tucked away, like sweeping mountains of dirt under a very expensive rug. And the man behind the curtain in all this? Andrew Fastow, their CFO.
Fastow really engineered most of this deception. These SPEs allowed Enron to report staggering profits, while the actual losses and debts were siphoned off elsewhere, into these entities. But the reality? Those debts didn't stop existing. They were just out of sight. Investors had no clue what was lurking in the shadows of Enron's glossy financial reports.
And we're not talking about some loophole they stumbled into. This was deliberate, barefaced strategic manipulation. They bent the rules of accounting so far they snapped. And they kept it all hidden under layers of complexity, which, honestly, most people couldn't even begin to unravel.
Exactly. But as these things often go, the truth started leaking out. When Enron's earnings started to look suspiciously erratic, questions began to mount. Their stock price? It plummeted. At its peak, it was trading at around $90. By November 2001, it was below $1. Astounding, truly staggering, isn't it?
And for their employees, this collapse wasn't just numbers on a stock ticker. For over 15,000 workers, their pensions were tied to Enron stock. So when that stock tanked, their retirement savings, years, decades of hard work, were wiped out overnight.
Imagine that. People who dedicated their lives to this company suddenly left with nothing, cleared out of their offices, pensions gone. The scale of devastation is almost incomprehensible. Thousands of jobs lost, families uprooted, livelihoods shattered, and all of it rooted in sheer corporate greed.
And speaking of greed, it wasn't just Enron. Their accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, had a significant role in enabling all this. Usually auditors serve as gatekeepers, ensuring that companies follow the rules. But Andersen, not only did they sign off on these dodgy financials, they shredded crucial documents when the investigations began.
That's right. Arthur Andersen, once one of the largest and most respected accounting firms in the world, crumbled under the weight of their complicity. Their acts of destruction weren't just unethical, they were criminal. And ultimately, their involvement in the scandal led to their undoing as well. The firm completely shut down, leaving another trail of job losses in its wake.
But the fallout from the scandal, it wasn't just about financial ruin, it raised huge questions about how companies are held accountable. Enron became the poster child for all the worst kinds of corporate misconduct. And frankly, a chilling reminder of what happens when greed drives decisions and ethical safeguards are abandoned.
Indeed. And while Enron collapsed into bankruptcy, those at the top didn't just walk off scot-free. The legal repercussions were serious, especially for Andrew Fastow and CEO Jeffrey Skilling.
Indeed, as Enron crumbled, the focus shifted to accountability. Those at the top didn't escape unscathed. Take Jeffrey Skilling, for instance. Once the powerful CEO steering the ship, he became the face of legal consequences. Convicted on multiple counts of securities fraud and insider trading, he initially faced over 24 years in prison. Later reduced, but still, an extraordinary fall from grace, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And Andrew Fastow, the CFO. He played a crucial role too, more like the architect of Enron's deceitful practices, frankly. But here's the twist. Fastow turned into a key witness during the investigation, striking a plea deal in exchange for his testimony. He still served time, but nowhere near as long as the 98 counts he initially faced might have warranted.
Right, and his cooperation was instrumental in unravelling the entire scandal. But it wasn't just about punishing individuals. The scale of this fraud shook the very foundations of corporate governance. And out of this wreckage came something significant, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Ever heard of it?
Oh, definitely. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX as it's often called, marked a turning point in how financial regulations were enforced. Its core goal? To make corporate financial reporting a whole lot more transparent and, frankly, honest. It introduced stricter auditing rules, made corporate leaders personally responsible for their company's financial disclosures, and ramped up penalties for dodgy practices.
And what a wake-up call that was. For example, executives couldn't just shrug and play clueless anymore. They had to personally sign off on financial statements, essentially putting their own necks on the line if something didn't add up. Plus, auditors, who are supposed to be the watchdogs, were barred from providing additional consulting services to the companies they audited. It was all about preventing another Enron-sized disaster.
Exactly. And, it's not just about legislation. Trust in corporations took a massive hit. I mean, people didn't just lose money. They lost faith in the system. Since then, companies have gone to greater lengths to demonstrate transparency. Look around today. Quarterly earnings calls are scrutinised, ESG initiatives are discussed openly, and whistleblower protections are stronger than ever.
And it's these changes that have reshaped the corporate landscape, but, let's be honest, issues persist. History is full of reminders that vigilance is an ongoing process. Take Wells Fargo's account fraud scandal in the 2010s, or the Volkswagen emissions debacle. These show how easily accountability can slip when corners are cut. The legacy of Enron, though, it's one of reckoning, a cautionary tale for every executive tempted to exploit the system.
A reckoning indeed. When it's all said and done, the Enron saga isn't just about greed or mismanagement. It's also about what we, as a society, demand of corporations. To not just chase profits, but to do so ethically and responsibly.
And with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into Enron, how it rose, how it fell, and how its legacy continues to shape the world of business. Thanks for joining us as we unpack this corporate, cautionary tale. Until next time, take care and stay curious.